We have news coming in from the Unicorn Club IPO bets and record sales today. I'm Radhika Das and you're tuned into the Daily Dispatch. The companies that are grabbing headlines today are Upna, Truecaller, and Ola Electric. The 27th unicorn to enter the club this year, Upna, which is a jobs marketplace for blue collar workers, has become a unicorn in just 15 months since its inception. It raised $100 million in Series C round from Tiger Global Management, and their other investors include Owl Ventures, Insight Partners, and Sequoia Capital India. A second story today, Truecaller, which is a caller identification firm, is looking to raise up to $116 million via its IPO. The Swedish company considers India to be its largest market. It claims to have over 205 million monthly active users in the second quarter of 2021 in India. The company plans to use the funds from the offering to explore potential acquisitions, future growth, and corporate purposes. A third story today, Ola Electric has received a record of 600 crore rupees worth of booking on day one. These bookings were made for its S1 scooter. After opening its bookings, the company claims to have sold 4 scooters every second. Ola's co-founder Bhavesh Agarwal has commented on the sale, saying that, "Make no mistake, the age of EVs is here."
Well, moving on to our second segment, I have with me a power-packed panel experts from the health tech space, considering that health tech has literally become the buzzword today with so many different technologies trying to really take on a variety of chronic ailments and all the other ailments that are there in the market that people are facing. Joining me for this panel discussion is Rohan Verma from Great Health Wellbeing. I have Vinay Bansal from Inflection Point Ventures, and I have Anand Madan Gopal from Cardiac Design Lab. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today on this panel. I want to begin by asking you, Anand, about the whole health tech space, considering that you especially have devices and are looking at creating and designing devices that is taking health tech to the next level. So if you could tell us a little bit about the present scenario and what it really means to be in the health tech space at this point in time.
Okay, so yeah, like you said, we've been in healthcare for long now. We're a deep tech healthcare company where we've been designing and developing diagnostic products. So we were in the complex space of Holter diagnostics with the algorithms, and also the other algorithms for additional sensors. So it was always a pure hospital play vis-a-vis some health lifestyle devices that were around pre-COVID. What has happened now is health has taken a little center stage. But I would say the center stage is actually more driven from government these days, is what my observation is. There are people who are trying to buy devices and things like that, but I don't think that is beaten what the governments are trying to do. Governments and quasi-governments, when I say quasi-governments, NGOs and other trusts are actually trying to make an impact. A lot of funds have been put into for addressing impact healthcare, is definitely making a change. There is a lot of talk about telemedicine. Telemedicine is obviously taken off. People are actually trying to do remote consultation, which was taboo. Just to give you a perspective, just before COVID, the Medical Association, I remember in Karnataka, actually came back and said they're going to punish doctors who do telemedicine. This was a circulation that they had sent. And soon after COVID, all that has gone into the wind. If they do that, I think everybody is going to be in trouble. So telemedicine is the way. I remember reading the article. It said, unless the doctor touches the patient, how can you treat? Was their statement. But I guess all that's gone now. So you see, healthcare has taken a huge turn. And just before COVID, we were actually making remote monitoring solutions. Primarily for chronic disease management. Now that's taken even better a chance to take off. But will the consumer buy? I still have a doubt on that. The impact guys who are getting in money into the NGOs and government, they're willing to spend, looks like. So there will be some change. But is the real customer actually buy? Is a question. And typical Indian scenario is buy devices that are cheap, which means it's pushing the industry to make quasi-clinical devices, which is a sad story because there are quite a few devices they're out there and out there selling, and the people who invest like it because they're getting bought. Now, how far this will go? Is this a wave that's going to end and it change back to more clinical setting and proper doing?
Right.
I'm not sure, but that's where it is.
Rohan, I'd like to bring you in at this point in time because preventive healthcare and remote monitoring is something that everybody's talking about. It's basically going to be the future of the whole health tech industry. It's already taking off in a big way. What kind of movement have you seen at Breathe Wellbeing?
So, hello everyone. So, we are Breathe Wellbeing and we are helping 70 million Indians to prevent, manage, reverse type 2 diabetes. That's what we do. We have a clinically verified digital program through which we are taking in these people with type 2 diabetes and helping them control their blood glucose, reduce their HbA1c, and eventually get off medications. So, what Anand just mentioned, that back scenario in 2019, I still remember sitting out of clinics and outside pharmacy stores. The general sentiment in the country was like, and ours it's a digital therapeutics program, which is based on lifestyle interventions and diet, exercise, and meditation. We have built our own proprietary protocols for that. And I still remember back in 2019, there was a sentiment where people used to say, would people in India want to pay for something that's not tangible? Would want to pay for a program, then nothing is coming to our house. People usually in India want to pay for tangible products. And I think when COVID happened, and we were also a B2B reliant company, we were looking at B2B channels, and we became direct to consumer. So we've grown 30x in the last 15 months. And we started in the middle of COVID, literally, because started commercializing January and February of last year. So, and why it has happened, I think that's a more pertinent question. For our target audience of people with type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, earlier they would go and consult a diabetologist, endocrinologist, right? But in the last 1.5 years, what's become top of the mind is COVID. And our target audience of type 2 diabetes, firstly, they are at an increased risk of severe illness if impacted with COVID. Everyone knows that they're slightly more vulnerable. And second, if they're just sitting in the house, their sugar levels, glucose levels have seen like a rise, like 10-20% rise, just sitting at home. So that, and plus top of the mind because of COVID impacting them severely, the desire to do something about their condition and the means that were accessible to them being only remote online has just created like a massive influx of people choosing programs, choosing a place that directly address their condition. So our main bet is that people in India have always paid for outcomes. People pay to doctors not for their advice because they pay for the outcomes, and similar trend is getting observed in digital therapeutics as well.
Vinay, you've been an active investor in this space. Lots of companies in the health tech space where you've invested in, and the market is taking off at this point in time. What's your perspective as an investor in the whole space? I know you're going to be complaining about valuations being high at this point in time, but I want to understand your general sentiment about investing in the space.
As many people on earth is as many health problems, right? On as many days. So the space was always there. I would say the opportunity was always high. Whether it is right from hospitals to pharmaceuticals to managing a chemist shop to diagnostics to natural health, well-being, etc. And I have believed in that, and we have also believed very heavily on the preventive healthcare as well, not just curative healthcare. So that's where we always have taken very high number of bets. I would say probably the highest number of bets in the country on the preventive healthcare side, which is sports, which is natural well-being, which is naturopathy, etc. And then we took bets on the other part of healthcare, which is curative, etc. as well, or even devices. So I mean, I have no complaints. Health was always a top priority. It will remain. And I think it has just got increased from a focus standpoint. On the valuation side, I think, for an investor, whether the valuations are high or low doesn't matter much. If the valuations are high, you rather sell. If the valuations are low, you rather buy. Right? I think you just need the right kind of investing mindset. So we did have a few exits last few quarters, which we're happy about. If we have to defer our investments by 2-3 quarters, no problem. So that's how we'll think about it.
Right, Anand, just to tell our audience, Anand is sitting out of his lab. So while he's talking to us, he's also has his hands on some devices. Anand, I want to understand from you what's been the kind of uptake over the last few months, because we understand that a lot of demand has been driven by the COVID-19 urgency, and at the ground level what kind of demand you're seeing for devices. So give us some perspective as to how much growth you've seen over the last year.
Like I mentioned earlier, if we had taken our remote patient monitoring solution pre-COVID, I think we would have struggled. Like we had our Holter solution picking up and competing with the Western guys. But all our inquiries now and focused with these agencies and governments are looking at patient monitoring in some form or the other, while they're doing other things as well. So I can see discussions on board. There is some projects that are trying to create ICUs per district. There are other projects that are saying the underserved population not being taken care of. We need to target them remote, because again, the fact that like when I said, the problem was already there. See, if you look at the poor which had chronic heart problems, they were already there before COVID. Also, they were there, and they didn't walk into Manipal or any of the other hospitals because they know they won't be able to foot their bills. Now somebody has woken up, somebody has got funds to say, take care of that patient now if you can, to an NGO, and they are reaching out to us. Can your solution do this? There's a question being asked. So while we gave our solution, one of the questions was, can you do hemoglobin concentration? There are a lot of pregnant women in this country who are underserved, are anemic. We would like to catch them early, because anemic pregnancy is a big problem. You get a child which is difficult at the late stage. I said, definitely doable. We're already doing PPG-based SpO2, definitely doable. Now, these problems are not new, right? They are already there. Now, there is a focus and money is coming to the sector to address some of these guys. So there is a definite ask, and there's a definite ask on people know now. I know the doctor who actually asked me exactly what I do with Bluetooth, what do I do with Wi-Fi, how much degradation I'll have in my signal. Will there be, I had to explain to him, in digital, you don't get those. You get what you pick up. There'll be no loss. We can make sure you get exactly like the way you stand next to a patient and you see through devices. The same data we can get you. So all this, I see this education itself is pretty nice, because he's a senior doctor on the field. He serves a large population. He's an impact-based doctor. It's quite big. So I must say two things: telemedicine and remote monitoring has picked up quite a bit, and there's a lot of inquiries. And second, people are now savvy to tech, digital tech. And I say digital tech, not the ones that you have a website and you go through things. That's not the tech I'm talking about. These are talking real tech. They're asking about how does the ECG look? Will it be exact? Am I going to lose some segments? The doctor even asked, will I lose some frequency components? I said, no. Wow, that's a great question, because I wouldn't hear that earlier. And this doctor has spent time to read, because he's trying to adopt these now as a means to start treating. The question, I think there's a revolution now where everybody's driven to tech and digital, and the enabler of that as a healthcare service to the patient has suddenly gone into multiple X's. And we're likely to see the effect of this, I think, next year maybe, because people are just catching up. A lot of things are happening, and price is always a crazy player in India. The same doctor who vows the solution asks me below my cost. Right. I tell him I cannot do that. If I do that, two things I have to do. First, I have to look at a Chinese component. Then my reliability is in question. My ICs have come from A-grade guys, and I build the whole stuff here, which means it is going to cost, doctor. I can't go below that. So it's a hard time explaining to him cost function. And he asked, can you give it to me a few percentage lower than what it costs me? I joked to him, I don't know, on the way back, I'll sell my kidneys and definitely your 500 numbers can be met.
Right. Rohan, I want to bring you in to understand what kind of future you see as far as the breathe well-being is concerned in terms of other new solutions that you're working with, and what can we expect in the near term?
Our entire program is based on using coaching, using the power of community, and using curriculum to deliver health outcomes. So it's remote coaching we talk about. It's a breathe health coach, classically a clinical nutritionist, and we train them in our academy to become like health coach. So health coaching is something is a primary adoption of our program. And second is our power of community, the patient communities that are emerging now for one purpose only. Like type 2 diabetics want to hear how the other type 2 diabetics are doing. So that's the future solution that we see kind of gaining massive uptick. And third is curriculum, and curriculum is in the form of videos, audios, people getting influenced by that. Think of it like Udacity, Udemy for healthcare diseases.
I want to bring Vinay in at this point in time. Vinay, what kind of investments are you looking at going forward, considering, and by what kind of investments I want to understand within the health tech space, are the specific areas of interest at this point in time for an investor like yourself? Preventive, is that a major area of interest, or what kind of areas would you be looking at? Because there are a vast number of areas, right, from wearable tech to telemedicine. So I want to understand what your interest lies in.
Sure. See, I mean, as a setup, we are agnostic to whether it's going to be preventive, whether it's going to be curative, or whether it's going to be deep health tech. Sometimes we have people reaching out, okay, I can cut the vein in a certain manner that, when you rejoin it, it's going to be much more easier, right? Or the blood flow is going to be easy. So that could be a more deep tech as well. What we typically look at is what is the problem that health tech company is going to solve, right? And then and is that a large problem? If let's say Rohan talks about a type 2 diabetes, it's large in the country, right? Second is, how are you going to solve it, right? Third is, do you have the capability, understanding, the technical knowledge behind getting that done? And the fourth is, does the founder have the ability to get this done? Does he have the tenacity, the execution skills, the leadership, etc., to get this done? So we always focus on outcomes. We always focus on the problem being solved, and is that really being solved? And if these 3 or 4 factors are met, we are game for it, right? And that's why we spread our investments across the whole spectrum. As I said earlier, right from, let's say, natural well-being or naturopathy to preventive, we have done a few investments. We have done a few investments in curative, and we have done a few investments in, let's say, online telemedicine, telehealth, consultative side as well, our community.
All right. On that note, gentlemen, thank you very much for being a part of this panel. The audience listening to this has gained many insights from all fronts, because we have a very well-rounded panel of experts from across the board. Thank you very much for joining us and being a part of the Daily Dispatch.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Have a good evening.